Can you you can hear me okay then?
I hear you okay. When you talked a few seconds ago, you were a little bit better, but I think that the sound uh, will settle.
Okay. Okay.
No problems.
Perfect. Yeah, this is awesome. Excited. Thanks for having me, bro. This is really, really cool.
Nice. Well, you're doing a lot of things, brother, that's gonna rock the world, right?
That's that's my intention.
Good,
I'm hoping so.
good. And you
Yeah,
were
I was gonna
sorry.
I was gonna is there a delay or no?
There's a little bit of delay, yeah.
Okay. Um I was gonna say I've been talking to Snake or Shane. Uh, he's such a funny dude, man. I love that guy. So Raul told me about him a while back. He said, "Hey, this guy's really cool," and I was like, "What's his name?" And he's like, "Well, he goes by Snake." And I was like, "Well, that's cool. That's interesting." So I've been talking to him, and he's such a cool dude. It's just really ever since talking to George Hobbs, my life has grown tremendously, like exponentially. And and I got in contact with Raul, obviously, and Firmamental, and Scipio, and now just a bunch of guys, and then you, and it's just so cool, man. Like my life is blossoming. You know what I mean? Like I'm a late bloomer, but hey,
Hey,
whatever.
better a late bloomer than not a bloomer, right?
Absolutely, bro.
Yeah, and things
Amen
go
to that.
fast because I know that I reached out to Raul. That was like, what was that? Like June or something like that, and he just started his own podcasting. And I'm Firmamental Europe, man. And yeah, big shout out to George Hobbs who connected us in that way and is the godfather of podcasting when you want to talk about the truth, right? Or when you dig into
Yeah,
some critical thinking and you need some people that are doing the same stuff.
yeah.
And yeah, and Raul, Alex, and Claude, they're such a cool guys. Scipio, I'll never talked to him before, but hey, in this world, you never know. Next time you're hooked up on him and you have a great conversation, which we have not now already. Um, I will
Yeah.
introduce you to the audience and correct me if I'm wrong because well, big shout out to Snake because he made a lot of notes where we can talk about because yeah,
Oh, cool.
obviously I'm doing the podcasting and he has some time that he spends with work that he can listen to podcasts and stuff like that. And yeah, it's such a great feeling to have all these people around you, just like you know, you bring out your own book which is called Through a Glass Unveiled. And the title of this book pays a homage to the actual firmament and the veil between life and death. And besides that, you are an artist and draws pictures and all of all your experiences in your book. You're number 5 of 6 children.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we're going to talk about a lot of things today, man. And it's great to have you. Without any further ado, ladies and gentlemen, fellow humans, welcome Joseph Collin Wright.
Thank you, Rob. I appreciate it.
So, yeah, just dig into it. You wrote a book about your experiences. Well, the most of them are paranormal, right?
Yeah, they're the vast majority of them are paranormal, supernatural, whatever you want to call it. Um, and I've actually almost died a few times. I've had several, I believe it's 5 out of body experiences or astral projections, whatever you want to call it. Um, the odd thing is that I have never tried to engage in any of this stuff. It has all just happened to me. And
Hmm.
like I mentioned Scipio before, I love talking to that guy because he not only is he a fellow brother in Christ, but he's also a veteran. Like he was in the, I think he said the Air Force, and he did like
Yeah.
special ops or something. He's super smart. Like he easily one of the smartest people I've ever met in my life, and he knows his Bible really, really well, which is why I respect him so much. Not just that he's a veteran, but
Hmm.
he knows what he's talking about. So you know, so he actually mentioned because he was talking to me about this very thing, and I told him the same thing I told you. I said, "Dude, I never wanted any of this stuff. I didn't try to bust out a Ouija board or nothing like that. You know what I mean? I didn't try to hook up with a witch or, I didn't go to any dark parties or nothing. It
Uh-huh.
just happened to me." And then he said, "Bro, you might have something in your family history." And I was like, "Dude, I never even thought about that." And dude, he hit the nail right on the head because sure enough, um, I recently got back into social media, right? For like years. I was fed up with it, couldn't stand Facebook, couldn't stand any of that stuff. And but I think I was talking to my sister or my brother or somebody. They were like, or no, my buddy George might have said, "Bro, if you really want to tell people about your story, about your book, you're gonna have to get back on social media." And I was like, "Nah, he's right." So I did, and getting back on Instagram and Messenger, Facebook and all that. My aunts started reaching out to me. They're like, "Oh, Colin, congratulations, you wrote your book." And then my aunt, I think it was my aunt Vicky, said, "Oh, you know that you were named after your great grandfather Joseph." And I was like, "What?" And
Uh,
I never even heard of this guy. And so her telling me this, and so I started asking her questions, and then sure enough, she said, "Oh yeah, you didn't know that he was I think he was the head engineer in Missouri and he helped build a bunch of bridges and stuff." And I was like, "Oh,
what?
what?" Yeah, so as soon as she said that, I was like, "No way." So I looked this fool up. His name's Joseph Evans Randolph. And I was like, "Dude, this guy, holy crap." Scipio was dead on. So apparently I'm related to like royalty, and uh there's even ties with like the Rothschilds and a bunch of people, dude. And I was blown away. I was like,
Wow.
"Well, there it is." He was right. That's exactly what it was. So there's undoubtedly some kind of a covenant or some crap got, the Masons and all those people, undoubtedly something they did that for whatever reason they have singled me out my entire life, and they don't like me. So
Huh.
I don't know. And I think honestly, it's that coupled with the fact that something happened to me when I was little. It's chapter 3 in my book. It's a very, very interesting occurrence that it honestly has helped. What do you call it? Helped center me like my entire
Mhm.
life. It's like a reference point. And that's when I saw who I'm assuming was either Elijah or Moses walk out of the clouds. Like
Wow.
I don't know what it's supposed to mean. I still don't know. But it's chapter 3 and I draw a picture, and what you see is exactly what I experienced. This old dude looking like he looked a lot like Charlton Heston in the 10 Commandments, but
Mhm.
different. He looked like Middle Eastern, and he just raised his staff and moved it to his left side. He didn't say nothing. I didn't hear anything, but I saw him for roughly probably 10 seconds, and then he just walked back into the clouds. It was bizarre, bro. And ever
Wow.
since ever since that time, I've been attacked relentlessly. Like I've seen stuff, I've heard stuff. There's stuff I left out of my book that I don't want to go into because it'll affect other people's lives.
Hmm.
And it's I
Crazy.
can't I can't make sense of it. I don't really, I've prayed about it many times and I don't know what it means. But my mom, you know, uh, God rest my mom. She's dead now. She died um, December 7th of last year, And
Mm.
I was really trying to get my book out because I wanted her to see it, right? Because I dedicated my book to her. And so I wanted her to appreciate it. And she got to see like the rough draft, but she didn't actually get to see the book.
Yeah,
And
yeah, I know what you mean. Wow.
yeah, so I was basically rushing it and I was trying to get it finished. And because of that, I think I kind of, um, yeah, there's a bunch of grammatical errors and there's parts in the book that I screwed up on, but it's all good, whatever. Like the whole point is to witness and to try to reach people for Jesus Christ, and I think I did that. And if I have to, if worst comes to worst, I can always republish it. Like add parts or
Exactly.
whatever. So, but yeah, dude, it's been a wild ride, and
Huh. How long have you been writing now this book?
it took me probably a better part of a year. I want to say at least 8 or 9 months,
Oh, wow.
and honestly, just what's been happening in my life. I went through a grueling divorce. I'm talking brutal, bro. Like, oh man, like I'm not gonna say any names, but my ex, she really did a number on me. Like she was trying to destroy me straight up. And whether or not she believed what she was doing, I don't know. That's between her and God. But God's God has brought me out of the fire. Like
Hmm.
He's refined me, and I am definitely a better person now than I was before. Before we got divorced. So, um, kind of like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they go through the furnace and they come out, and the fire didn't even touch them. So that's kind of like how I've been processed, I
Hmm.
guess you could say. Um, so yeah, it's all that stuff, all the divorce, and then my mom dying, my grandma dying, my aunt Rosalie dying. It's all
Whoa.
these past 6 years, bro, have been like kind of like
Lift.
yeah, like going through a crazy storm, and Jesus finally comes out and says, "Peace, be calm," and
Hmm.
the storm dies down, and that's kind of how I feel. So it's interesting to see where he's taken me in my life, and I told him, I said, if I'm going to write this, God, I want you to do with it whatever you want to do with it. It's all glory to you. I'm going to stay out of the way, and yeah, it's been interesting to say the
Hmm.
least.
And were you, after these events in your life, more connected to God, or did you always had a special relationship with Him?
Um, it, so when I was really little, I still don't know why I wanted to get saved. Um, chapter one, after the prologue, chapter one, it's a drawing of I'm going up to my mom and tugging on her dress, and I ask her, I say, "Mom," I either said, "How do I get saved?" or "I want to get saved." I can't remember exactly what I said, but in the book, I think I put, "How do I get saved?" So she stops cooking and she leads me to Jesus, and I was like 5 or 6 years old. So I don't know why I did that. I mean,
Mhm.
I can only assume God put it on my heart. I don't know, because it says in the Bible that God calls us. So I believe that He called me, and then it was off to the races from there. So yeah, I'd say in a way I've had a unique relationship with God. Um, why exactly? I don't know. Um, Probably because has something to do with my family lineage and the history, and obviously some of them were in the occult. So a lot of times God will take a situation where it looks like it's destitute, right? Like there's
Mhm.
no chance of anything coming from that, and God will use that, and then He will pull someone out of that, and then He'll flip the script, and He
Hmm.
does it constantly. He does it to the devil all the time, and the devil's got to be the most frustrated individual throughout history, bro. Like he has to be, because every single thing he tries to do, God's like, nope, whoop, and he pulls the rug out from underneath him, and the devil's like, ah.
Yeah,
So I love your song. Your song, you're like, the devil's on my heels. he's a pain in the butt, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
And it,
it really is. It's like that's how it is, bro. And so, but the thing is, he's tenacious. He doesn't stop. He's
nope.
persistent. He doesn't give up. So, um, yeah,
And we
I hope
see
I answered your
nowadays, we
question.
see a lot deceiving going on.
Oh yeah,
You guys, you watch the Super Bowl and stuff like that, and I already get some hands up, just like, oh man, there was like one goddamn show, But even if you are just hang around at house and you go to the grocery store, you got so many signs about deceiving. If it's going to be sugar or coffee or watch this or do that or whatever it's going to be.
yeah.
And yeah, makes it very hard. And what did it to you as a child when you? So chapter one is about chucking on your mother's dress. Like, tell me more about Jesus, about praying, or how that.
Um, so yeah, so after that, I got saved, and then we got back. Then my mom took me and got baptized, and I got baptized, and then that's when it started. You know, I remember I knelt down in my front yard. It's so bizarre, bro. Like I knelt down in my front yard. I was on the couch after we got back from church, and I remember sitting on the couch and I was feeling elated. Like I was feeling the presence of God, and something told me like you should go outside and say thank you to God. Like in my mind, I was a little kid,
Mhm.
and I'm thinking, like I didn't really understand the concept of praising or worshiping the Lord, but that's basically what I did. So I went out to my front yard. It was probably, I don't know, 12, 2 o'clock, some in the middle of the day. And I got down and I felt compelled to get on my knees, and I lifted my hands up and I just started saying, thank you, Lord. Thank you. You're awesome. And I was just, you know, praising him. And apparently my mom told me when I talked to her years ago about it, and I said, I knelt down. She's like, you knelt down where? And I told her, oh, in the front yard. And I was facing the intersection going towards Aunt Rosalie's house. And she's like, oh, you were facing east. And I was like, when she said that, I was like, what? So I think there is something to the whole, how Muslims will face east. They
Mhm.
get on their knees and they
To the
face east.
Mecca.
There's something to that. Now, I'm not saying I'm a Muslim, but I do think there is something to the concept of facing Jerusalem,
Hmm.
and because that's where the Holy of Holies was. The Holy of Holies was in Jerusalem, and I didn't know that when I was doing that. It could have been a coincidence that I happened to kneel down facing east. I don't know, but I knelt down worshiping God, and it was very similar to when Solomon builds the temple for the first time, and
Mhm.
he gives credit to God, and he gets up on like this table, and he kneels down and he lifts his hands up, saying, thank you, God. So as I was doing that, I feel like this. The only way I could describe it is like, I know you've been on a roller coaster before, right? Okay, when
Yep.
you get on a roller coaster and you're at the very tippy top and you're about to drop, and
Yeah.
as you drop, you feel like you're like, that anxiety.
Yeah.
So that feeling in your chest, then combine that with like two magnets. So you take two magnets and they push against each other.
Hmm.
Combine those two feelings, and that's what was I was feeling in my chest. It was like it was almost like I was feeling something coming up on me. And I
Huh.
remember I was still on the ground. I turned back to my left, and this old woman, she looked like she was at least, I don't know, 70, 80 years old. She was wearing all black, and she was staring at me, bro. I was on the ground and she was staring at me, and oh dude, like she looked old, but I could see her eyes. When I looked at her eyes, it looked like I was looking at a tiger or like a lion that was about to eat me or something.
Huh.
It was insane, bro. And I'm convinced that I saw a fallen angel
Hmm. That was
because
watching you.
she disappeared. Because like I told Raul and all the other guys when I talked to them, in text or whatever, and and podcasts, I honestly believe that I think they're all around us all the time, but we just can't see them because they have the ability to. They're interdimensional.
Hmm.
You see what I'm saying? Like they can go incognito and they can
Yeah,
go undetected, and we can't see them, but they can see us.
yeah.
And so when they see something like I did, when I'm giving worship and praise to God in broad daylight out like that, I think they detest that. I think they hate it.
Hmm.
And so I think she showed up to interrupt it, to stop what I was doing because that's exactly what happened. I stopped worshiping God and the attention was drawn on to the entity.
Ha.
Yeah, because
Deceiving and
at the end of the day, that's what the devil and that's what they want. The devil
hmm.
wants us to praise him like we do God. You see what I'm saying?
Exactly. And what is better than deceive someone that you just not focus anymore on the things that you did, exactly that. And it's really well, not funny, but it's very interesting and fascinating that I had a conversation with Nathaniel Gillis, uh, who is a demonologist, and he said that spells, like you said, like what your great great grandfather had, could be done in a time that they are still active. And when I listen to your stories, just like you broke the spell, right? The spell that was
I
on you,
guess.
and
I
of
mean,
course.
yeah, I see what you're saying. I think what it is like for whatever reason, God God plucked me out of this family because my mom, I give the credit to my mom. Like she would read the King James Bible. She would read the King James Bible to us 6 kids.
Hmm.
Like I don't think people don't really understand because most people don't read the Bible, but you you can open it, baby. So when sorry, my daughter was bugging me. She's
No
like
props, no props.
she wants to open a present. I'm like, "Okay, go for it, dude." Um
It's her birthday.
well, no, it's a present from her birthday.
Okay.
So we just had her birthday recently. It's February the 6th. Um
Oh, same as mine.
yes.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Congratulations.
yeah, so she read the Bible to us in King James, and I can still remember sitting on the floor trying to understand what she's saying, right? And it's and she was very adamant about making sure her children were raised up in scripture.
Hmm.
And so God honored that. And so he chose me, I guess. I'm assuming, I don't know, because all these things that happened to me, uh it's not a coincidence, so
No.
he uses people to do what he wants to do to expose the enemy and to further God's kingdom.
Hmm.
So that's what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, and it's
So
not
yeah,
like one event that happened to you. It's just like several events that you 100% will be convinced that it's not normal what happened, right? There
correct.
are like five. Did you mention 5 times that you were almost dead?
Well, five I think it was 5 times out of body experience,
Oh, out of body experience. Exactly, exactly.
which is really strange to me because what I do understand about that astral projecting is that I guess they say that that's something that people in the occult try to do,
Hmm.
and I guess it's something that it's part of a ritual or like part of something they do to do something else. I guess I don't
Hmm.
know. I haven't really researched it, and I don't really want to get into it because I know once you start going down that road, you're basically it's like sending out an invitation to the enemy
Hmm.
because you give jurisdiction to them to come into your house and kind of sit down with you, and I don't want to do that.
No, I know.
So you know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? Like I personally know what's out there, and a lot of people. they kind of play with it and they think it's funny. They think it's a joke. It's not a joke. Like,
No, 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 I never did a Ouija board or stuff like that,
yeah,
or I never did that. I never had any interest in it. But I had out of body experience once or twice, especially when I was in the hospital, and
wow,
I think that it comes with some kind of trauma, or that your body is in this state of not knowing where to go. And it was really
right,
strange because I was lying in the ambulance, and I knew that I had a shot of ketamine. Is it for I think the Kita,
yeah, yeah,
and I know that I was my eyes were closed, but I saw stripes in the middle of me, and I thought, first of all, oh, I see the stripes that are on the highway, right?
right.
But then when I well, like 10-15 minutes, I saw the stripes were going really fast, and then all of a sudden they just almost stopped, and then they divided. Just like, now
Whoa,
you have to choose. And then I woke up in the ambulance, and then I saw
wow,
he was, he was straight on the road. So it's just like, what? But the
that's weird.
funny thing is, just a few moments before that, I saw myself lying there. So when I had made the choices, the stripes were going on and on and on. And all
Yeah,
of a
yeah,
sudden, when these choices had to be made, just like, I don't want to make a choice. I'm still here. Am I? I saw myself looking, lying there in the ambulance. And when I woke up, I just popped in my body again, just like, what happened here?
that's
But
crazy, huh?
oh yeah, there's so much we don't know about where we live and what
Yeah,
happens, and especially when you see things like you, it's not like you're using some psychedelics or stuff like that, but it's just happened to you as a kid, and and until now, right?
yeah. So I think, I mean, I've tried to figure out because it as I've gotten older, it's like the occurrences have kind of like, I guess you would say, slowly tapered off. But what's weird is that, um, dude, I had crazy stuff all the way up until actually something recently that it's not even in the book. But the the best way I could put it is the enemy knows that I know, but the closer I stay to Christ, the farther they have to stay away, if that makes
Mm,
sense.
mm,
So when I was a kid, and that's why they come after children, is because children are innocent. They have no idea what they're doing. They, it's they're just naive. They don't understand anything, and so the enemy can kind of mess with them because the older you get, and when you use your own free will to go towards God, they have to respect that.
mm.
It's like a universal law, and they have to respect your will and your choice, which is exactly why anyone who's possessed, you basically have to invite them in. Just like
Yeah,
you become possessed by the Holy Spirit
you have to
when you get
agree with them.
saved. Yeah, when you get saved, you're inviting the Holy Spirit into you. When someone becomes demon possessed, they're inviting the opposite inside of them.
Exactly.
You see what I'm saying? And so that's what the enemy tries to do, is they're trying to get control of you.
Mm,
And so if that means that they have to peck at you and peck at you and oppress you and mess with you and influence you for 30 years, then that's what they'll do.
yeah,
And
exactly.
sometimes they don't, most of the time they don't possess people, but they torment them, and they will hang around the person and make their lives miserable
Hmm.
because they want you to go to hell,
Exactly.
right? But possessing someone is like icing on the cake for them, because that allows a demon spirit to exist here on the physical plane, whereas
Exactly.
otherwise they wouldn't be able to do that.
And
You
that's
see what I'm
exactly
saying?
what Nate and Nathaniel pointed out, that these entities, these evil spirits, because he's really digging into that subject. And he said, I said to him, man, how do you sleep? I mean, but he said, you have to be a very strange person to dig into that stuff because it's very dark and you
Yeah.
could get lost. But he does a lot of grounding. He's actually today in Manchester giving a lecture about the way he points it out. But there's some great stuff that he talked about that. These entities, they're not just like bam, they're in your life. You invited them, right? Or they give the
Well,
energy and you are open for that energy. And just like you said with the children, that there are but well, a lot of children that are just talking to someone in the corner, just like, who's there? Oh, that's Uncle
exactly.
Johnny or stuff like that. They're
Yeah.
more open to the portal of what of all the dimensions, let's say.
Yeah. Um, yeah, and there's lots of ways you can invite them. Like, if you choose to do drugs and sleep with prostitutes, and if you just saturate yourself with the worldly things and do things that Jesus basically wouldn't approve of,
Mhm.
then essentially you are inviting them into your life. Whether you acknowledge it or not, that's what you're doing little by little by little, and you become more and more dark, and eventually, where you are, let's say 10 years ago, and you live a dark life, in 20 years, who knows what you're going to be doing.
Oh
You'll
yeah.
at that, you'll be so depraved, and you look back and you'll be like, wow, I used to be like this person, now look at me, that I can't tell you how many times I've talked to people that I wish I'd never done this or that, and now they're struggling, and
Hmm.
it's
And it's
really it's really
sorry,
go ahead.
and it's what they say, right? He's facing or she's facing her demons.
Right.
When you're on that point that you can't get a grip on yourself and you can't control yourself. And I just talked to well, just an hour ago with Eric Sinners, also about addiction. There's a what's it called in English, like a red, yeah, we call it a rode draad, a red, well, there's something that's always been there in my life, right? And
Right.
some of these things I can control, and some of these things it's very hard for me, just to be honest. But it doesn't make sense to let them go because they're hard. You have to face them because they're hard.
Right.
It's something that you have to deal with if you want to be a better person and to do the things. And I was a little bit joking an hour before, just like, when I do podcasts, I do not have the intention or the time to be lost in, for example, in porn or doing drugs or drinking, all the stuff that drinking too much coffee, stuff like that. There are
Yeah.
so many things that we could be addicted to and lose ourselves in this, especially in this society that we're living in now, where everything screams use it, me, and do this and do that. It's
Yeah.
yeah, it's fascinating how that works. um
Absolutely.
Joseph, or is it Colin, or is it mostly Joseph Collin?
Well, I I always tell my friends or people that I get to know, I say, well, to put it basic, all my jobs and my bill collectors will call me Joseph, and my friends and family call me Colin. So
Okay.
you will definitely call me Colin.
Okay, thank you, man, thank you. um well, just like I said, Snake has did a tremendous job about pointing some stuff out. um as you said, you were on Cliff's podcast, Truth or Faith, Flat
Yeah,
Earth Files, Firmamental. Shout out to my brothers in
yeah,
America, and
yeah,
to Raul and Claude, of course, for the good work, and on Fact Hunter with George Hobbs.
yep.
um how did you feel when all of a sudden this book comes together and you got your pages done and you think, okay, this is, we always want to be perfectionists, but you can't. There's one time that you just say, bring it out and let's see what's
Right.
happening, right? But
Right.
you must be very proud. But please describe how it was when you first had your first copy in your hand.
Uh, it was uh, it was weird. It was like I was looking at something somebody else did.
Hmm.
It was weird. It's strange. It's like, I don't know. It's kind of like your life becomes more real in that, people that live their whole life and they never do anything,
Mm-hmm.
they basically they're always hearing about what somebody else did, right? They're always reading a story or watching a movie or going to a concert, and their life is full of things that other people did.
Hmm.
So when you yourself, you actually dedicate yourself and you take and your time and your energy to do something that is one of those things that other people do, and then you see it in front of you, it's like your life becomes more tangible and your life becomes more relevant.
Hmm.
And I'm not saying that people that don't ever get to do anything, I'm not saying their lives aren't relevant. I'm just saying it's it's like it's almost like you start to wake up to what this life could possibly be, if that
Exactly.
makes sense.
You change your reality in a good way.
Right.
You
Right.
use your lessons and your failures also to
Right.
give it to some other people. Yesterday, I had
Yeah.
a very interesting podcast with Kay Monday, which is a communicational coach and basic about people and brands about storytelling, how they tell their story. And everyone has a story, but do they do something with it? Just like writing a book or make music or stuff like that, or do
Yeah. Yeah.
they only enjoy it from the other ones? That's what you try basically to say, right? And
Yeah.
I think that that's so cool because I was making this sound, did this song, not the sound. Well, yeah, I was making sound while I was making the song, of
Yeah.
course.
Yeah.
Well, it was late night, and I had this really. Um, Normally, when I talk, I could be very enthusiastic and stuff like that, and my voice is going to get higher. But somehow, on that time level, it was like 2 o'clock in the morning. I had
Uh-huh.
a very slow, dark, normal voice for me. And I'm just like, wow, that's it. Now I got to do something with it. So I wrote this song because it was basically about my life. It's not like that the devil could grab me, but
Yeah.
he's always there present, just like, okay, when you do one little mistake, Rob, you are going to be mine. So that's why, I've been running for all
Wow.
my life with the devil on my heels. And to bring that out and just to record it on my telephone, you're not professional studio and stuff like that, and just take your guitar and do that stuff. And you mentioned it, thank you very much for that. Eric said it before, and then a lot of other people say that, just great song, and uh, that does good energy for me because I brought
Yeah.
it out because I felt related to that story, just like you have, with a story that maybe people can wrap their head around, but it's there, right? You saw it, you experienced it, and that makes it so unique and authentic. And what better to spread this word? And to be honest with you, Colin, you are going to be famous because today on Instagram, I saw already that Raul had the first copy in his hand. So this is going to be amazing, brother.
Yeah. I appreciate that, man. And I just want to say, I think your English is really, really good. Like, I can't even imagine. Are you Norwegian or what is your background?
No, I'm Dutch. So
Oh, Dutch. I'm sorry.
I was
Dutch.
raised with two languages, with German and with Dutch. But my father was a German.
Yeah.
But my basically normally language is Dutch. I always was interested in languages, and the funny thing is, when you look at TV here, and I'm talking about like 30, 40 years ago, there were
Yeah.
only like 3 or 4 programs on the television.
Yep.
Every other language is just subtitled with Dutch. So you listen to the people saying in their original language, and
Okay.
if you interested in some languages, you can pick stuff up. And just to be honest, metal music, and when we purchased an album in the early days, the first thing you did was taking out the song text, put on your headphones, and just yeah, what are you reading and what are you chatting,
Yeah.
right? So there's
Yeah.
a point of interest too. Sometimes now when I listen to the music that I used to listen to, just like, okay, there are some there's some deceiving and there's some devil lyrics too. But yeah, thank you. And basically, I like to communicate with people, even if it's not in the language that I used to. I really like to, even with eye contact, with body language, or with your hands and feet, as we say here, try to communicate, and there are always some things that we can communicate with each other over the whole world. Uh,
Yeah.
just like if you cut yourself, you say probably ow or ouch. Well, I don't think that Chinese people say something different, right? So we have a lot of things as a
Right.
human in common.
That's
And
true.
when somebody sneezes, it's always the same. It's not like, oh, that one sneezes Chinese, or that one, or Russian. No, it's all the same. So there are
You're
some
funny.
basic things that connects us, and yeah, I really like that. And yeah, but yeah, that thank you.
Yeah, I
Um,
wanted. I was gonna say that because I know just from talking to Raul, because when he hit me up when he was gonna do it, and he was nervous, and that's understandable. Like to do a podcast is not an easy thing to do. Just from talking to George, talking to Scipio, talking to Raul, it's not an easy thing, man. They may make look it they make it look easy, but
mhm.
it's not. So you're doing this all by yourself, and from what I've heard, you speak to everyone in English. So English not being your first language, my hat's off to you, bro. That's commendable. Like seriously, like it's um what you're doing is really awesome. And plus you got a great personality. You communicate really well to people. So I think you're an awesome dude. So I think you're
Thank
doing a
you,
great job.
thank you, man. Yeah, I try to do my best, and the thing is, I started now like 2 months ago more seriously, talking to Raul about getting him on the podcast, and Alex, and it was connected to Snake, and all of a sudden he said, "Come on, man, I'm gonna find you guests," and within a few weeks I got David Wise, Mark Sargent, and other people that nobody knows, but that's what I
Yeah.
like, because everyone has a story. And basically one of the things I want to do is bring out the message that even if you do not know each other, there are so many things that you do not know from each other.
Hmm.
And it's this thing, and I cried when I saw that. It was on, I think it was on television quite a while ago, or on TikTok or something like that. There was this homeless man, and it was quite a young man, like 21, 22, and he
Yeah.
had a really rough life. And I don't know what happened to him, but the fact was he was homeless. And this interviewer said, "What would you like? What would be your wish?" And I got goosebumps all over.
Oh,
And he
I can
said,
see.
"I want to be treated as a human."
Wow.
Just like, wow. If you look at that perspective of that man and these women and these people that are living on the street, and not like they have the plan to get kicked out of the house or whatever, it's not like, okay, oh, next week we're going to be homeless, because that's one of the greatest things to achieve in life. But everyone has a story, and everyone has a struggle that they fight. And when you
It's true.
communicate with these beautiful people like we do now, there's always something that we can learn from each other. And I think that's the biggest message, and also the organized world as we know is so messed up that it's going to be disorganized, and I want to pull that veil off, just like telling them, okay, that's oh, now my telephone is because I said disorganized, right? And then my telephone says, all of you, the AI says, hey, you're talking to me. Oh my god.
Yeah,
Yeah, but thank you for
that's
the
actually
compliments, man.
yeah, absolutely, bro. You're welcome. I was raised and taught to give credit where credit's due. I'm a firm believer in that, you know. And so if I give you a compliment, I'm not just talking out of my butt. I mean what I say, and I say what I mean. Um, so yeah, and the like kind of piggyback of what you're saying about the podcast and reaching these people. That's that is like kind of the main reason why I did my book, is because in my book I say that I'm certain that all, if not every person, I'd say most people, if not every person, has experienced at least one thing in their life that they don't know what it is. They don't want to talk about it.
Hmm.
It gives them the heebie-jeebies, um, makes them uncomfortable or whatever. Uh, I sincerely believe that, and I think by writing this book and me sharing, and let's be honest, this is the most vulnerable I've ever been in my life, but at the same time, it's the most liberating and the most freeing I've ever been in my life.
Hmm.
So, um, it's like, so I did that so that I could reach people, and I'm certain that someone who's not a Christian, someone who doesn't never heard any of the things I'm talking about, they'll read this book and they'll be like, "Dude, that happened to me," or
Hmm.
"This chapter that happened to me." You see what I'm saying? So uh, I've had lots of stuff happen to me, and the average person obviously hasn't had all that happen to them, but they've had at least one thing where
Hmm.
they can resonate with what I'm saying. You feel
And
me?
could you talk to your family and friends about these things that happened to you, or was it something that you had to deal with by yourself?
Um, for most of my life, I dealt with it by myself because uh, it's like I don't know how to describe it. It's like when you it'd be like if let's say your closest group of friends, right? Let's say that just hypothetically, let's say that you went somewhere one day and you just happened to run into some crazy celebrity, right? And let's say the celebrity really enjoyed talking to you, and you guys sat down, and they happened to be getting some food, and you were getting some food, and you guys hung out for 20 minutes and shared a coffee or something.
Hmm.
And then you go home, and then you tell all your friends, dude, you guys aren't going to believe what happened. They're not going to believe you. They're going to be
Exactly.
like, okay, buddy, whatever. Like, you see what I'm saying? It's
Yeah.
kind of like that, but not. I'm just trying to use an analogy where these things that happen to you, you try to talk to someone, especially if you're a kid. Kids make stuff up all the time,
Hmm.
and so it's like, how do you say this to people without looking like you're nuts or
Yeah,
something,
yeah,
right? So,
exactly. Ready for the
and
funny farm.
yeah, dude. So, and the first person I brought it up to was my mom, and I told her about seeing Elijah or Moses or whoever it was in the
Hmm.
sky, and she didn't know what to think. She just kind of looked at me and she's like, "Wow, Colin, that's remarkable." And I was like, and I was kind of nervous, waiting to see what she would say about it.
Yeah.
But I respect her so much, and I she was the most spiritual person in my life, so she knew the Bible, and so I'm thinking, I was scared to bring it up to her, but I did, and by her reaction, it kind of confirmed to me my suspicions on how people would receive me or
Hmm.
perceive what I was saying. So, yeah, it's been very difficult my whole life, but um, I tell you what, man, it has it has opened my eyes to how things really are,
Hmm.
and when I first learned of the biblical cosmology, and I told George Hobbs, I don't like using the term flat Earth
Mhm.
because there's so much negativity, there's so much disinformation, and let's face it, there's a bunch of whack jobs out there
Yep.
that they use the term flat Earth. So we wouldn't have flat Earth if it wasn't for biblical cosmology, the true cosmology that's in the Bible. That's been there the whole time.
Mhm.
So, it's not like some little trolls came in the night and rewrote the Bible. It's been in the Bible the whole time.
Yeah,
And
and
so
also in other religions, they pointed out that we're living in, and
right.
there, yeah, and not to interrupt you, but
No, that's fine.
I saw that it's the same like when you see something that you can't comprehend with your head around, it's the same
Mhm.
like, oh, wait a minute, I digged into something, and let's say it's a biblical cosmology, like the earth is flat for the better understanding. Just like if you go to your friends, you can hang around with them, you can listen to music, you can talk about, well, almost anything because everyone knows what to talk about with the individuals, right? But
Yep.
when you bring it up, just like they think I'm nuts.
Yeah,
That's but
absolutely.
that's the thing too, there are a lot of people isolated with some kind of truth, just like what you have, right? You see things or you experience things and you can't talk to a normal person about it because they would just call the what's the mental institution, just like, oh, well, we got a loony over here,
Right.
and
Yeah.
that's very uh, that's very sad because when we open up and when you bring out your book and people are going to read it, they will know, and because of your experience,
Yeah.
what is going on. Well, not what's going on in this world, but there's another perspective where you can look at some things that happen and things that are there, maybe not for you to see. I describe
Yeah.
it as like an LSD trip. I'm sitting in my own house, and all of a sudden I see things that are not there, but my mind makes that. But what if you 100% sober and you just see something that you just can't comprehend with your mind, just like, what was that? Do you put it away? Or you want to talk about it like you do, you make a book out of it. But the funny thing is, if you don't normally do that, oh, guess what I saw now? I saw a floating pink elephant in the sky. Oh, you know, yeah, that's you know, yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. That's funny. Yeah, so I forget where I was, but I was gonna say when you talk about this stuff and um yeah, like I said before, I hopefully I can kind of like what you just said. I hopefully I can bring closure or an explanation or bring clarity to something that's happened to somebody, and they're like, "Oh, is that what that was?" You see what I
Mm,
mean? Like, um, I guarantee it, bro. Because like I've talked to friends, and they're like, "Yeah," and I could tell it's like bothering them. They don't want to talk about it, but then as we share each other's stories, they kind of come out of their shell, and they say, "Well, yeah, this and this happened, but I don't know, I don't know," and they just kind of brush it off, and like, kind of like when you're a kid, like you hear a noise and you go under the covers, like it's just my imagination. It'll go away.
yeah,
It's like
exactly, exactly.
that's how we are as adults. We just brush it off and like, it's whatever. It's just my imagination. See, what I think happens is, honestly, bro, I think when we do drugs, and obviously certain drugs are different than others, but I think when we do hallucinations or psychedelics,
Hmm.
um, I think actually what's happening is that you kind of like when you have a scope or like a telescope and you have to like focus it, right?
Yeah,
You have
yeah.
to focus the scope to get a clearer picture of what you're looking at.
Uh-huh.
I think the human body, the way God made us, is so extraordinary that when we introduce chemicals or drugs or psychedelics or whatever, I think what happens is whether it's the pineal gland, I don't know exactly how it works. I think what it's doing is that it's kind of refocusing the lens, so to
Hmm.
speak, and it allows us to see what normally we wouldn't see. And
Exactly.
so that's why God doesn't he acts absolutely forbids. He says, "Do not mess with divination. Do not mess with fortune tellers. Do not mess with this, that, and the other." Not because it's stupid or fake. It's because
Mhm.
it's very real. So when you're messing with this stuff and people are oh, they tell you these things about your future and this and that. It's we're messing with we're basically messing with the inner workings of our reality, and
Hmm.
we're basically committing, like a red flag on the field, like penalty, foul. Like you're
Yeah,
not supposed
yeah,
to be doing
exactly.
that. You see what I mean?
Hmm. And it makes
So
sense. Of course, there are a lot of let's call it drugs for the easy part, but that God made, right? To connect to the divine, in my opinion.
right.
But the thing is, if you are if you do these things, it can give you a warm hand and grab you to, okay, you had some actions, I'm going to show you some, but it could also be like messing with you. And I
Yeah.
always say that you need to know what kind of stuff that you took, where are
Mhm.
you, and the most important one, who are you? If you're dealing with some stuff in your personal life or in your business life or whatever, you gonna face the demons, right? So, and with that said, they can attack you because you're open, you're vulnerable on that moment for that kind of entities or energies. And I think it's very fascinating to see that, especially in this world, there are some places where we gonna uh, experience them more. Just like Raul said in New Mexico, there's so much stuff happening. He
Oh
encountered also a few things, just like, whoa, what the hell? And maybe it's something that is energetic, which is it's some kind of consciousness, but like everything that's light and dark, and black and black and white.
yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
that if you don't have the balance and you don't see through it, it could really put you down. And Nathaniel told me about it in the podcast that it could, like, 30, 40 years, these energies can drain you down. And that is what happens when you are, just like you said, more into the wrong stuff for yourself, as
Mhm.
and when you can't face the positive things of life. And there are a lot of people struggling with it nowadays because life is hard for a lot of people. They work their asses off, and they make just enough money to pay the rent, gasoline to drive to work, and maybe have a little bit money over to do some nice things and to eat. So the pressure from society is more and more and more, but that's also some kind of veil they want to push on you, just like, oh, the dark side, right? So if you look at it on a different perspective and you calculate it just like you did when you write the book, you think about the experience that you had, and what was the message, what uh, is there always some kind of message in the things you encountered that you think?
Is what you mean? Was there a message for me in particular that
Yeah,
God's trying to
when
show
you
me or
wrote
something?
these things down, so you encounter some things, and is something like, okay, this is something wants to be shown to me, and I am the one that gonna illustrate that to put it out to the others.
Right. Yeah. What's interesting is there was in I think it's chapter what is it, chapter 7 maybe? I was we lived on a house in Vista, California, and this house was this place, it had a pentagram on the wall when we moved in, and the landlord was a piece of trash, and this guy was a piece of work. But at this house, um, that's where I had one of my out of body experiences. And what's interesting to me is that there was an entity. I remember seeing my body, and I had just got back from fifth grade camp, and I made this necklace, and I made it out of like yellow and green, like cotton or whatever, and
Uh-huh.
I had like a piece of leather that all of us kids got to stamp. Like up at Palomar Mountain, we got to stamp it with different symbols and stuff,
Hmm.
and it was in the shape of an arrowhead, and it was a cool necklace that I brought home with me, and I was all stoked about it. I was happy that I made it. And I had it sitting on my wicker basket at the foot of my bed, and I remember I woke up in my dream, and I was hovering above I believe it was my chest, either my chest or my head. I couldn't really tell,
Uh-huh.
but that always seems to be where I was whenever this would happen. I would be hovering above my kind of my face chest area, and there was an entity to my left that I couldn't. It's like I wasn't able to look at him, but I could see that he was either crouching or kneeling down next to my bed, and he was like whispering to me, and he was like goading me. He was like trying to get me to um it's like he was trying to get me to tap into something that I had.
Hmm.
It was very bizarre. Uh
On a positive way or on a negative way?
well, I perceived it as negative for sure.
Hmm.
So this is the only time I've ever been able to do this. I've never tried to do it again because I know what that means and what that implies, and God says stay away from it.
Hmm.
So what happened was I could feel my chest spinning, almost like if you have a sink full of water and
Yeah, yeah.
you pull the plug and the water goes zzz. So as it goes down and cyclones down, that's what I was feeling in my chest. I was feeling my chest spinning. But at the same time, I remember I looked at the feet of my feet, and I could see at the foot of my bed, I saw the necklace. The necklace rose up in the air and it was spinning and spinning, and it was in sync with my chest. And I
Wow.
remember this entity was saying, "You can do it. You can do it, Colin. You can do it." And as soon as I realized that I was doing that, that I was controlling the necklace, it scared the crap out of me, and I woke up and I jumped out of my bed and I ran and I jumped to my mom's bed and I was scared. I've never tried to do it again, but what's interesting to me is I think that I have some type of ability, I guess. I don't know. I've never tried.
Telekinesis, something like that?
I guess I don't know. So maybe that is why I was targeted. You know what I'm saying? Like because like I told Scipio, all these different things happen to me and I've never tried to do anything. So
Huh.
it's like they're coming to me for some bizarre reason.
And Colin, I'm thinking, just hypothetically or theoretically or whatever it's called, if you have a DNA string, which is, of course, a lot of data, and what you said that probably one of your
Great
forefathers,
grandfather, yeah.
yeah, was in a masonry. Um, what if these knowledge that they gained, like from generation to generation, is stored in your DNA, and you don't have to learn it again because it's already in the system, and
Huh.
that you are now on this world, and that it's gonna be on in you, is of course very special. But that could be, of course, a plausible thing, because the DNA is the biggest data storage there is in the world.
Sorry.
No, no
Um,
problem. Um,
yeah, no, I hear what you're saying. I've thought about that. You mean like kind of what do they call it? Heretical, kind of like stuff that's passed down through genetics.
yeah, exactly.
Um, yeah, I maybe. I mean, honestly, I don't know, but
Because
I
do you so you are the fifth of six children. Are they all mixed up, like girls and boys? Only boys, only
Yeah, so
girls?
I'm the youngest boy. So there's 4 boys that were born to our family. I'm number 4, and there's 2 girls. So I was stuck in between 2 girls. So I'm the youngest boy, but, a number 5 of 6, so yeah.
There was always someone around in the house, right?
Always.
Wow. And do one of your sisters or brothers also experience something that you experience, or are you just the only one in the family?
My oldest brother I'm sorry, hold on one second.
Yeah, no
Baby?
problems.
Open the slime and the glitter.
Yes, but only on the table. Thank you, baby, I love you.
Oh, wait, actually,
Okay, that's fine. 6-year-old daughter, bro.
Oh, that's
She's
a
one
cool age.
yeah, she was letting me know that she opened the slime and the glitter. I was like, "Okay, make sure it's on the table." Um, yeah. So
Yeah.
so about my other siblings, I know my oldest brother, Neil, he's a firstborn. He experienced some crazy stuff. He told me some crazy stuff. None of my siblings have experienced the quantity of things that I have.
Mhm.
Um, like some of my siblings, I don't think experienced anything, but I know Neil did. He's got some pretty gnarly stories, dude. We're from Missouri, Lebanon, Missouri,
Uh-huh.
and that place, boy, let me tell you, there's a lot of devil worshippers and just whack jobs in Missouri, all over the
Yeah,
country, really.
satanic
But
stuff, like.
yeah, satanic stuff, and so we were kind of like a grain of salt in a pepper factory. You know what I mean? Like we were in the middle of it, and luckily my parents decided to take us out of all that. But yeah, I think like that one house where I was talking about the necklace.
Hmm. With a
My
pentagram.
my youngest sister Erin, she told me that one time she saw Leah, my sister, and but what's funny is that my sister Leah was actually at her friend's house. She wasn't even home,
Huh.
and I remember talking to my mom and my sister about this, and my sister was young, and she came out of the bedroom and she saw Leah, the back of Leah's head, walking down the hall, and Erin, my sister, said, "Leah," and she tried to get her attention, and this entity just ignored her and kept walking, and then Erin said, "Leah," and she tried to like ran after her and she disappeared. And so Erin goes and gets my mom. She's like, "Mom, Leah's being a brat." And as soon as she said that, my mom said hair stood up on her neck and her arms because she knew where Leah was. She knew Leah was like 50 miles away at a friend's house or something. And so my mom was like, "Oh, it's okay, sweetie. Leah can be a stinker sometimes." And so she made sure to occupy my sister Erin with something else until Leah got home
Hmm.
because she didn't want to freak out Erin. But yeah, Erin, and then now Erin's an adult now, but she's like, "Yeah, that was creepy. I totally saw Leah." I was like, "I hate to tell you, Erin, that wasn't Leah."
Yeah, yeah. And I was talking with Nathaniel about it. These entities, these energies, they can put up an image that you really think that's the person that you love, the football star,
Yeah,
alien, whatever. They
yeah,
can just do it. So, and that's very interesting because what's the purpose of doing that, right? That's of course a big question for us. Um, Colin, you also draw the pictures that you illustrate in your book, right? Have you
yeah,
always been a drawer? Is that the right word? Drawer?
yeah. Draw artist, yeah, whatever.
Artist, yeah, artist. I prefer artists. Yeah.
Yeah. What's funny is that I've always had the ability, and I get it from my mom because my mom was an amazing artist. She could draw. Like, her abilities were really good, bro, and I know had I tried to pursue, like, real quick, so ever since I was little, I could draw, and I would always intentionally try to draw something from my imagination, because anytime I drew something like copied it, it wasn't a challenge to me. It just seemed boring and too easy to me. So I would always try to draw something that I could think of, and I would try to imagine a perspective. Like I would try to draw, like a three-dimensional image just to challenge myself to see
Uh-huh.
if I could capture that image from my mind and put it onto paper. And so I've always been like that. And when I was in high school, my teacher had us draw this project. It was like he wanted us to draw. He said, "Come up with a character, anything you want. Obviously, don't make it dirty or gross or whatever." He said, "Come up with a character," and he said, "Draw it from a human's eye view, a bird's eye view, and a worm's eye view." And when he said that, I was like, "Oh, goody gumdrops!" I was like,
Uh-huh.
"This is exactly what I like to do." So I was in class and I came up with a character and I named him Daily, but I made him, he was this fat, bald reporter from like a newspaper reporter.
Mhm.
And so the name of my character in my drawing was Daly's News. And so my teacher, he laughed. He got a good chuckle out of that. And so I drew a picture of his boss. His boss was, reading him the riot and busting his chops. And so you got human's eye view of that, and then a bird's eye view looking down on him, and then a worm's eye view looking up at him. And I encapsulated all of it in one drawing. And my
Wow.
teacher was like, he's like, "Wow, this is really good." And so he's like, "Hey, if would you want to do, like, if I got you a scholarship, would you want to pursue art?" And I was dumb. I was like 16. My brother had just died. My brother Wes had died, and I was smoking pot all the time. And our family was going through hiatus, and it was a rocky time in my life, and I didn't take advantage of it. And had I done that, I undoubtedly I would have tapped into a skill that God gave me,
Hmm.
and I most definitely, I think I would have been better than my mom ever was, but I was stupid, and I blew it off. And but what's cool is that God was able to reignite that skill that I have and I've always had. Because the last time I really drew something was like in high school, and then a few years ago, I drew a character. I was playing this RPG role playing game with my buddy, and he's like, "Hey, you can draw your own character." I was like, "Really?" And so that kind of intrigued me. Drew my
That's
own
cool.
character, and then a year, 2 years, whatever it was later, that's when I finally decided to sit down and, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to write my book. I'm going to write my testimony. And I'm not going to lie, my drawings, they sucked. When I first started doing the drawings, they were horrible. And I would crumple them up and throw them in the trash. But then once all the rust got knocked off, I
Uh-huh.
knocked off all the rust. And then I started seeing the images and it started transferring into my hand and I could draw again. That's when it started flowing. And it was
Exactly.
actually easier to write the story than it was to draw the pictures. Because all the stories were in my mind. Like, it
Yeah,
was
yeah,
just
exactly.
stuff.
But how
It
to
was,
put them on
yeah.
paper is different. Yeah.
And my Aunt Mary, she was like, she read it. She came down and visited my mom, thank God, before my mom died. And I gave the rough copy to my mom, and her and my Aunt Mary read it. And my Aunt Mary was like, "Colin," she's like, "Did all these things happen to you?" I was like, "Yeah." She's like, "I have to ask," she's like, "How do you remember all these things?" I was like, "Well, let me put it to you this way." I said, "Try to think of something that's happened to you that's traumatic, that you're never gonna forget, right?" And she's
Mm.
like, "Right." I was like, "Yeah, I've had lots of those.
Yeah,
I've had
exactly.
lots of those situations where I'm never gonna forget what happened to me,
Mm.
and how it happened. Because something that happened to you in your life, something that's crazy, right? That's been seared into your mind. You know what you were wearing, you know what you were eating, there's
Yes,
certain
everything.
details that you're not gonna forget, right?
Exactly.
It's kinda like whenever you ask people like, "Oh, where were you when JFK was shot?" Everyone can tell you.
Yeah.
Everybody knows what was happening, or let's say, "Where were you in 9/11 when the Twin Towers?" I can tell you exactly what happened.
Yeah, me
So
too.
it's kinda like, yeah, it's kinda like that, like, a very crazy event happens in your life where it's been tattooed on your brain.
Yeah, it's an impact. It's trauma-based
Yeah,
stuff
that's
that they
exactly
do,
what it
or
is.
whatever happens, right? Because you just like you said, you can see the room where you are, or the place, the
Yeah,
smell, the everything. Very, very fascinating also, because when you use that ability, you can also um, and I was talking about my girlfriend about it. She said, how do you sometimes have these vivid memories? And the funny thing is, she has very vivid dreams. I do have sometimes, but not that much. She has
right.
always crazy dreams. So I said, both of these things happen, and your mind doesn't know if it's true or not true. Only if you're dreaming, you wake up and you think that you dreamed it.
Yeah,
Sometimes when I go to bed, 51 years young now, I go very healthy to bed, and when I wake up in the morning, just like, what the hell happened yesterday evening, man? My limbs are a little bit sore, just like, what what was I doing? And then I remember my dream, just like, oh, I think I was running. I never run, stuff like that. But it's really crazy that and the funny thing is, when I talk about it just like a normal subject, like oh, you do remember when we went to the restaurant and we had a coffee?
yeah, yeah,
Nothing pops up, nothing.
yeah.
But the more clues I give her, all of a sudden she, oh yeah, with the guy with the black jacket, and there was a door on the right, then all of a sudden you
Right,
can create this reality again. Very
right.
fascinating, very
It's
fascinating.
interesting, huh? Yeah, what's really cool, well, I guess it's cool is that I believe it was I think it's the first out of body experience I had, which is really strange to me, is that I literally, I guess you could say, flew over to my kindergarten teacher's house, Mrs. Wolf, and it's so strange. Like I remember I remember waking up in my mind in my dream, and I remember like I was I guess hovering or flying
Mhm.
towards her front door, and I just remember going through her door, and I could see inside of her house, and I'm talking, I saw straight ahead of me the kitchen, and I did in the book I didn't draw down the hall because
Mhm.
just for purposes of the drawing I needed to draw it the way I did. But I remember looking down to my right, I looked to my right and I could see they had like a den, and it had like a step down, and there was a recliner and like a bookshelf. I remembered all this stuff. And what's weird is that that's the only out of body experience that I've ever had like that, where I was literally like flying across town. Like I don't know if I just all of a sudden appeared there or if I actually flew, like left my body and flew all the way over there. I don't know. I don't know
Wow.
because I just remember like I came to in my mind when I was going pretty much approaching the front of her house and I went through the front door. And what's really strange, bro, is like I want to say 2 or 3 weeks or something later, my mom was like, "Hey Colin, get your sister Erin. Um, Mrs. Wolf is gonna babysit you guys because I gotta run some errands. I gotta do this, that, and the other." I was like, "Okay, mom." I had never been to Mrs. Wolf's house. Never been there. But I went there in my astral projection, my out of body experience, whatever. So we pull up to the house and I'm like, this is weird. And like it's familiar, but I'm like, I've never been here. And and I remember we're walking up to the front door, and as soon as we get up to the front door, it came back to me. Like my my out of
Wow.
body experience, the memory, I was like, and then Mrs. Wolf opens the door, and when she opened the door, I could see past her, I could see the kitchen, and I'm just like goosebumps all over my body. I'm like I didn't say nothing to nobody.
Whoa.
Yeah, bro. It was so I don't so when you hear about the CIA and
Mhm.
the NSA or whoever it is that
Remote viewing and stuff like that.
like the Nazis were all into that. The occult, they're all into remote viewing and all. That's basically what they do.
Hmm.
But I don't know how they do it. I just know that I did it and I wasn't trying to do it. So what that means, I don't know. But there's no doubt in my mind that if I wanted to do it, I think I would have the ability to do
Mhm.
things that would blow people's minds, but I'm not about to do it because I know what that means. So it's a very interesting position to be in. Kind of
Mhm.
seeing both sides of the chessboard.
Yeah.
Like I know what it's like to, you know what I'm saying? Like I know what could happen. And if I really wanted to, like if I had joined the military and they found out I could do these things, there's
Mm.
no telling where I would be, bro. I probably wouldn't be talking to you right now.
No,
I would
exactly.
probably
And
be,
the,
you know
the
what I mean?
question that came up, as you told this story about Mrs. Wolf, is like, um, okay, that there are some things that you encounter that you do not want to dig into because it's really the dark side and stuff like that. But
Mhm.
like astral projecting, that's really cool, right? I mean, it's really cool that you can be somewhere else. But
It's
um,
gnarly.
I think that what you mean trying to say is that you are in another dimension on that time, and you don't know what's messing with you in that dimension.
Yeah, I
And,
don't yeah.
and I know that Nathaniel pointed it out. Also, he was like getting a burger with his dad, and all of a sudden he thought about a beach somewhere, and that same day he was like a few hundred miles away from okay, few hundred miles away from the beach. But friends of him called him just like, "Were you here today? Are you in the neighborhood?" He said, "No,
Oh,
man.
I
I
heard
was."
that episode. I heard that.
That's crazy, man. But
I
we
listened to that
have,
episode.
but we, I think we all have this ability.
Yeah,
The only question is, what do you do with it, right? So he's trying to, or he uses this in a benefit to solve cases and stuff like that, and these
wow.
are like demon possessed stuff. So I know that you're a little bit freaking out. If you do that, it's not like, oh, I'm gonna get an ice cream. Oh, I'm gonna astral project to somewhere. That's
Right, right.
yeah, because you don't know, because he also was seen on this beach.
Wow.
So probably when you astral project to Mrs. Wolf, and Mrs. Wolf is home, and she all of a sudden sees Colin popping up in the bathroom or something like that, just like, what the hell? And just like the encounter that your sister did, you can't tell if it's real or not, right? It's a
Right.
projection of. So that's so fascinating, man.
Well, I'm pretty sure that when I did it, it was probably like, during the night, early in the morning or something, because I remember when I went into her house, all the lights were off. It was dark. I mean, I could still see, but I just got the impression it was like probably 3 in the morning or something,
Huh.
and, there was nobody around. I could tell, everybody was asleep. That's just so and then that made me contemplate and think about the fact that I wonder how many times people that see stuff, if they're actually seeing another person just astral projecting and it's not a ghost at all. You see what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Like, I wonder how many times that's actually happened, and,
Huh.
it's bizarre, huh?
Wow. And I think that Robert Greer did this professor, the doctor. He did it also, like meditating, and if you take care of your food, and you do some
Right,
fasting and stuff like that, really crazy things can happen to you. The question is, just like you say, and just like what your opinion is this something that is normal to do, and what can you encounter in these things? Just like if I look at Supernatural, the two dudes, do the hunting and stuff like that, but what they encounter, I do not want to encounter that's
no.
and that's exactly what you say. All right. Huh.
Yeah. Yeah, it's,
Tell me, Colin, you know quite a bit about the large bronze pool commissioned to the builder of the King Solomon and the Hiram, called the
oh,
Brazen
yeah.
Sea.
Yeah, that's interesting you brought that up. I'm glad you brought that up, actually. Um, so that's really how all of it how my journey, right? My journey with podcasting and meeting all these awesome people. It all started when I was reading the Bible, And every time I read the Bible, I pray and I ask God, you know, Lord, give me your wisdom, your discernment, your understanding. I pray that you allow me to understand what I normally wouldn't, right? Because all knowledge and wisdom comes from him anyways.
Hmm.
So by reading the Bible one time, I came across, I want to say it was Chronicles, and I was reading about Solomon and he built the temple, and then I came across this thing called the Brazen Sea, and I was like, the Brazen Sea. And my mom gave me a book, Matthew Henry's commentary, which is an awesome book. And then she also gave me a Strong's exhaustive concordance. So if you have these, a concordance and a Matthew Henry's commentary, it allows you to like investigate the Bible basically.
Okay.
And
Okay.
so when I came across the Brazen Sea, I was like, pause. So I went and grabbed the books and I started flipping to it. And I found it. And I was like, what in the world? And I started reading all the details about it. And I'm telling you, bro, I know I'm right about this. And it's something that has been in the Bible this entire time.
Huh.
I believe that the Brazen Sea is a small scale version of our Earth. And so what's really strange is that it has the very same exact characteristics as the earth. So God, because the Bible references itself, right? When you
Uh-huh.
read the whole Bible, you'll come across a passage and be like, oh, that's what that passage was talking about. Like crazy stuff. And um, so in the Bible, it talks about the earth. It gives different characteristics of the earth.
Mm-hmm.
And God calls the earth his footstool numerous times. And then I believe it was David who said, let us go down and worship at his footstool. And I'm thinking, well, that doesn't make any sense. Unless, and that because I started reading all the characteristics of the Brazen Sea, I was like, could it be? I was like, no, that's crazy. That couldn't
Yeah.
be. And I kept reading all these characteristics. I was like, wait a second. And then I came across that passage in Psalms where David said, let us worship at his footstool. I was like, no way. And then once it hit me, bro, like my whole body was just washed with like goosebumps. And I got like this crazy epiphany. I was like, did I seriously just come across something that,
Huh.
that, that far out? Like, no way. And so, uh, I'm telling you, dude, it's very, very, it's very eye-opening because it talks about the Brazen Sea sat on 12 oxen,
Mm-hmm.
just like pillars, right?
Uh-huh.
And uh the Brazen Sea, it's shaped basically like a giant bowl, almost like a basin almost.
Okay.
But this is what's really weird is that and this all happened probably in like 2015 maybe.
Uh-huh.
So um and around that time is when I first saw this video. It was an interview, like an old interview of August Picard, and he's an old, he's dead now, but back in like 1931, homeboy, he's like this Polish scientist, super smart dude. He and his cousin, I believe, they handmade their own. They called it a gondola, which is basically like a capsule
Uh-huh.
that was attached to a hot air balloon. And he was the first man ever to reach above 50,000 feet. So he did that back in 1931, I think it is.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to figure, uh, back then when he did that, there's not going to be hardly any pollution, right? There's not going to be a bunch of ambient light like we have now,
No.
right?
No.
So if you were to get that high up in the air, it would be crystal clear. Like you would be able to see way farther. Like the atmosphere wouldn't be nearly as opaque, kind
Mm-hmm.
of like cloudy or murky,
Yeah, yeah.
like kind of like when you're in an airplane and you fly into a major city like Los Angeles. You're flying into Los Angeles, you can literally see a layer of filth, like
Smog.
disgusting smog, nastiness. You can't see through that stuff.
Huh.
So back in 1931, he would have been way above everything, and he would have been able to see like way far out there.
Exactly.
And so when he got back to Earth, the reporter said, "Oh, Mr. Picard, what did you see? What did the Earth look like?" She said something like that. And he said, "The Earth looked to be flat with upturned edges."
Huh.
And this is what's interesting. When I read about the Brazen Sea, it said the Brazen Sea had the brim of it is like a tulip, which is
Uh-huh.
like
Yeah, yeah.
upturned edge.
Huh.
So I started putting all this together and I'm like, dude, that is so crazy. And so then I started learning about the firmament. Bro, I'm telling you, what I learned about the firmament is I should say what I think I know about the firmament. I don't
Mhm.
actually know, but just from what I'm able to gather and what makes sense to me is like I told Raul, and Raul was his head was spinning, bro. He was
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I I love that guy. Me and Raul would talk all the time, and he's such a character, bro.
Oh
So
man, love him.
yeah, I was telling him on one of the interviews on the podcast. I was telling him what I think about the firmament, and he was blown away. And I was like, dude, I think I'm right about this because I'd seen this video of this guy who had like a crazy magnet, right? And he poured what was it, nitroglycerin over the magnet,
Uh-huh.
and then he poured liquid oxygen over the magnet. And what happened was the liquid oxygen started turning sky blue, started turning blue, and it started sticking to the magnet.
Ha.
It was bizarre. And it started forming like a bridge. And I was like, wait a second.
Ooh.
And so then I stopped and I started looking up liquid oxygen and does it have magnetic properties?
Mhm.
Can electromagnetism, how does it affect liquid oxygen? And sure enough, there's all these scientists that apparently this is a known thing in, I believe, the medical field.
Uh-huh.
Like they do something, there's something they do, I forget what they said, but it's like they know this will happen with liquid oxygen. But um, so I applied that to the firmament, and I'm like, well, wait a second. If the Earth, if the Earth is a toroidal, and I'm
Mhm.
certain that it is,
Yeah,
and the
absolutely.
Earth, so they're saying Mount Meru, like no one knows if Mount Meru exists. I think it does,
Mhm.
and I think that's actually the mountain that Lucifer took Jesus on top of. And I think he took Jesus on top of him and he showed him the world. Because how are you going to show him the world from one location unless you're on top of, like, basically you're in the center of the earth and you can see everything around you.
Wow.
So I think he was on Mount Meru. I don't know that. It's just my own opinion.
Uh-huh.
But
Your own thought, yeah.
Mount Meru is basically a mountain that's made out of magnetite,
Mhm.
as I understand it. And
Rupa
so,
Nigra also, right?
right, Ruben Nigra, and then the company BlackRock. I mean, come on.
Yeah,
You know what I
yeah,
mean?
too much coincidence, what
Yeah.
George would
So,
say, right? Ding.
yeah, the coincidence coins. Yeah. So I started putting all this together. And I was like, dude, that's really bizarre. So if the Earth is basically a toroidal, and you got the magnetic coming up from the North Pole, going up and out, uh, and then I thought about that passage in Revelation talking about that it says that the Earth is shaken and the sky rolls up like a scroll.
Mhm.
So that tells me that the firmament literally rolls up like a scroll and disappears. And I think the reason why it's going to do that is because the magnetic fields of the earth are going to be messed with. And I believe that's what they're doing with CERN. I think CERN has something to do with I think they're do I don't know exactly what they're doing with CERN, but what I do know is that it's a 17-mile track under, like,
Mhm.
a almost like a racetrack underneath the ground in what, Switzerland?
Yeah, Switzerland,
And what
sir,
they
yeah.
do is they charge it up, like massive amount of charging, and they use these giant magnetic rings. So if you understand what I'm saying, I think what's
Yeah.
gonna happen, whether they're intentionally gonna try and do it or they do it because something goes haywire and it causes a massive, electromagnetic burst that goes out and it basically short circuits the Earth's magnetic field. And in
Oh.
doing so, that would cause the firmament to basically roll up like a scroll. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I think it's possible.
Holy shit,
I think it's
Colin.
possible that the firmament is kept in place and it's kept intact and it functions through electromagnetism.
Huh.
I don't know that, but it seems to make
It's
sense
a
to me.
plausibility that could be very, very close to the truth. Yeah. Holy
It's crazy,
cow.
huh? And then I also wanted to say something been thinking about the firmament more, and I honestly believe, just reading scripture, I think the firmament, God made it in layers. And by that I mean, have you ever seen that video, the Go Fast rocket that like came
Yeah.
out in like
Yeah.
2016 or whatever it was?
Uh-huh.
So it's going, it's going, it's going, and all of a sudden, this if you watch the video and you listen before the rocket stops,
Uh-huh.
the sound actually cuts out.
Yeah.
So yeah, the
Like
sound
you
actually,
deep dive on the water, something like that.
yeah, it's almost like the rocket is like a sound dampening.
Hmm.
So I think, and Scipio, hats off to him. The guy he's so smart. So I was talking to him about this, and I kept calling it the slurry, and Scipio's like, "No, bro, I think what you mean to say is a super fluid." And I was like, "What the frig is a super fluid?" And he's like, basically, a super fluid. You got a solid, you got liquid, you got gas, you got plasma, and
Uh-huh.
so then from a plasma, then you have a super fluid if certain properties are met.
Mm-hmm.
So by that I mean, um, so up in the firmament, apparently it's like it's below negative 400 degrees. I mean, you're talking super cold, and that's why the scientists down in Antarctica, they have the sky ice, right? They
Uh-huh.
investigate the sky ice, and it looks like a emerald, like a blue sapphire stone, just like in the
Yeah, yeah.
Bible.
But
The
it
Bible
doesn't
says
drip and stuff like that, right?
no, because it's liquid oxygen.
Ha.
So water is H2O,
Mm-hmm.
right? So when you freeze water, it looks like ice, but when ice melts, you're seeing the result of oxygen leaving the hydrogen, and what you get left is the water dripping. So when you have pure oxygen, when you freeze pure oxygen, when it melts, it just evaporates. You don't get any wetness. You
Ha.
see what I'm saying? So I believe that the firmament is either made up solely of this or it's made up mostly of this and maybe something else. I don't know.
Huh. And that
But
sorry, go ahead.
yeah, so also what I discovered is when researching liquid oxygen is that when you freeze it, it forms what's known as a rhombohedral crystalline structure, which I guess is it's not a very uncommon crystalline structure. Rhombohedral crystalline structure, which means it's really hard. And apparently, this sky ice is flexible, like it moves.
Mm-hmm.
You can move it. It's not like a rubber band or nothing, but it does flex. So that you put all these things together, and I'm telling you, that's why the firmament is so durable. That's why they can't break through it because it actually flexes, and it's
Exactly.
actually like a crystalline structure. It's hard, and who knows how thick it is? I don't know how thick it is, but
And I think one of the properties is when you take a piece out, it uh
heals itself.
it heals itself. So
Yeah,
when Hillary whatever came up like, oh, we cracked the we make cracks in heaven. Well, fine for
yeah,
you, but it's healing itself. Thank God.
yeah.
But this makes so much sense, and that's why they
That's
have in
crazy.
Antarctica all these laboratories, because they can't transport it to
Mhm.
to Europe or whatever, because before it's in the airplane it's gone.
Yeah, exactly. So,
Wow.
yeah, I think in the Bible, in Genesis, in the very beginning, it says that God put the sun, moon, and stars in the firmament,
Hmm.
right? So, and I was talking to Scipio about, he made a really good point. He's talking about, well, this is a certain part where they say they're worshiping in the mountain. worshiping in the mountain. And I was like, well, that's weird. I was like, what do you mean? Like they're worshiping in a cave? And I was like, I don't remember reading this in the scripture. And he's like, and he posted it, he always posts the verse. And I was like, it does. It says it right there. And he's like, well, he said, Colin, you got to understand that it's like me saying I'm in LA. I was like, oh, I got you. So it could mean like you're in the area, but doesn't necessarily mean you're inside of it. So I think there's a lot of misinterpreting of the Bible, and I think intentional mistranslation of the Bible to keep us off track, to make sure we don't get to the truth
Oh,
of exactly
100%.
what God was saying through these prophets and these apostles and stuff. So
Huh.
I think when the Bible says that God put the sun, moon, and stars in the firmament, I think it probably means like almost like a double, like the stars. Okay, so like I said about the firmament being multiple layered, this is what I believe. I believe the firmament is part or comes in contact with every single heaven. It talks about the first heaven, the second heaven, and the third heaven. The first heaven is you and me walk outside, we see the birds flying in the first heaven, right?
Uh-huh.
So I believe that the sun and moon are in the first heaven, but I think it's possible that they traverse or go in and out of the first and second heaven,
Uh-huh.
or the first and second layer of the firmament. So, and then also in the Bible, it says that he put the stars, in the firmament. And I think the stars are most likely inside of the second layer
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
because it talks about the waters above. David talks about the waters above. So there's still waters above. So I think that it's almost like, think of like an Oreo. Like an Oreo's got the bottom layer, the middle layer is a cream, and the top layer. I think the second layer of the firmament is fluid.
Huh.
I think it's the fluid that helps heal the firmament.
And it just popped up in my head. If you look at water, just like when it's calving down right on the sea, you see all these when the light is pointed out on it, you see all these colors, the glimpse of water, like say. So
Yeah.
and if you look at I think Mormon Rishi has a big telescope at home and he's looking at the stars, and he pointed out that all the illustrations that NASA did are not the real thing, right? So if you look at the stars as they are, you see this energy that's giving all the colors, and it's never stopping. And it makes really sense if you talk about the water and the chemical connection between all the things that you talked about what when it comes to the sky eyes, like say, like
Right.
wow.
Yeah, and also
Ah.
it talks in heaven. It says that in front of God's throne is a sea of glass. So I think the sea of glass in heaven, in God's throne room, is the top layer or the third layer of the firmament.
Huh.
So in other words, the firmament is actually kind of a part of each heaven. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the first heaven is, like I said, is where, like Scipio corrected me and said, the superfluid. That's where the superfluid is. That is also, it act like a sound dampening. Like if something were to go, you wouldn't be able to hear anything because it's, you're inside of like a mist or like a cold plasma or something. So, but then it hits something. It hits a hard, fast barrier. That would be like the hard bottom layer of the Oreo, right? And then right above the bottom layer of the Oreo, you got the fluid. Now, is this fluid, is it pure oxygen? I don't know.
No.
But it also says in the Bible that waters pour out from underneath, I think, or from God's throne. So is it possible that the waters above come from God's throne? I don't know. Pretty fascinating.
Good stuff, Colin. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's really
so
good stuff. And
it's a mind bender, bro.
Yeah, when you connect the dots like that, and if you look, and I'm 100% convinced that if you see the Hebrew text, Dario pointed it out because one of his friends is working at the Vatican to translate stuff, right? And he
Right.
said there are like 5,000 words in one book in Hebrew, but we need like 80,000 words to translate it to our language. So what
Right.
happens there, you know? And um, as I talked
Lost in
before to,
translation.
yeah, and as I said, I pointed out with Eric on the podcast before, just like, what if, what if uh, the Bible is there when people don't believe in science, and science is there if you don't believe in the Bible? But what if you leave them both open, right? So basically, if you go to an island and you create a new community that do not
Hmm.
have any science, no books, no scripture, no nothing, what they do is experiment, and they will notice that within a time, okay, the sun rises and the sun sets, like the normal vibe frequency of nature, right? And they will know like within a year, oh, now it's going to get cold, now it's all blossoms, and you know, um, because you can see it and you can experience it.
Yeah.
And it's so fascinating, it's so fascinating. Um, and sometimes I have to be honest with you that I'll have to check out, grab my
Yeah.
guitar and just play some dirty rock and roll, just to know, like, okay, whatever's going to be in this beautiful world, man. Holy, and especially now in these times that a lot of people that do not have a PhD use their critical mind and thoughts to investigate stuff. And we are from uh, a generation that uh, was not that tied up in school. Well, you know, the basics, but we drifted a little bit away, you know. Well, I did, for 100%
I
for
did
sure.
I did too.
Yeah. but that, but what that comes is that when this lab coat guy comes up,
Right.
you can have really good questions that he can't answer, and you thought about it and you do not have a PhD. I think there are more people
That's true.
intelligent nowadays with all the, and especially until now, because 100% they're going to shut some stuff down, like the digital stuff that you can watch now, or you know, even if I post a video on YouTube that says without any, that I do, like a Wikipedia, all things, flat Earth, blah 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 blah, because we talk about it, and AI is gonna ramble through my podcast. But you know what I mean. These are thoughts, and I think when someone says, you know, I got a beautiful house, and this is the bathroom, this that, and that door, no, don't go in there. Oh, that's gonna be, that's
That's the door I'm gonna want to open.
exactly, exactly. And especially when they're not gonna say what's behind that door. You know, if they say there are demons or wild animals or stuff like that, that you could make up your mind. Okay, I'm not gonna go through that
Right.
door. But when you get no answer, or when some topics here in the
Exactly.
Netherlands we can't talk about, it's
Yeah.
not allowed
No,
to.
you make a good point when they don't tell you at least something about it. It's like, well, what's behind there? Oh, don't worry about it. There's nothing there. It's like, well, there's something there. What's behind there? You can't open the door. That's when you're going to want to open the door.
Exactly. And it
You
makes no
know,
sense to say, okay, I got all the answers for the questions, but don't answer a question. Don't question something. Although I have
yeah.
all the answers, that makes no sense. That makes totally no sense.
Go downstairs,
Huh.
please. Go downstairs. I'll help you in a little bit. So what I was going to say was it's something that actually popped in my head not too recently. I was talking to Raul, and I had this epiphany, I guess you would say. Violet, go downstairs, please. that reading the Bible, and I realized something that it talks about the earth shaking, right?
Mhm.
And then when the earth shakes, that the heavens also shake. So, and plus, it does say that the firmament, that basically the firmament attaches to the earth. So, in my mind, I'm like, dude, and I all of a sudden I got this image in my mind. I was like, what if the earth is like a frozen placenta? Like we are encapsulated in this, it's so you got the brazen sea, but then the firmament is literally like, I guess you would call it the uh it's what envelops the brazen sea.
Mhm. Mhm.
So you got the firmament, which is literally a lid that goes on top of the bowl.
Yeah, like what you have with food, right?
Right,
Yeah.
right. But then the lid is not only a lid, it's also acts as like I don't know what you would call it, like a garment. Like
Mm.
it because it talks about the God sets the boundaries for the waves, and the waves can go no further. Well, what
Uh-huh.
is that? That's the ice wall. The
Exactly.
Antarctic is the ice wall. And so they don't know. They're not going to come and tell us how far down does this ice wall go into the ocean. For all we know, that's what I'm saying. The earth could literally be all enclosed within like a frozen shell.
Mm.
And Raul was like, bro, it's like
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
tripping.
exactly. I'm astonished, man, and it makes so much sense.
It's
Also,
crazy.
because why do we still find maps where Rupa Nigra is pointed out, and they say
Exactly.
no, that's like a mystical story. Oh, whoa. Okay, so you're gonna tell that the people that made the pyramids and all these other megalithic buildings and structures, they were idiots?
Yeah.
Come on,
They all
that's
knew. They all knew about it.
yeah.
And what's something I can't really I can't put my finger on it, and it seems the Bible seems to be alluding to this. It says that, and God will cast them out into the outer darkness. So this is what gave dude chills went up and down my spine when I
Huh.
when I realized this, and I was watching. I kind of thought of it when I watched the original the original press conference with the moon hoaxers, the guys who supposedly landed on the moon.
Mhm.
If you go back and watch that original press conference with Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, and Michael Collins, they're
Uh-huh.
all sitting on the panel, right? And if you watch, the reporter says, "Oh, what did the stars look like?" And Neil Armstrong, homeboy's sweating bullets. Like,
Yeah,
if you
everybody
think
was
about it,
sad.
yeah, it shouldn't be like that at all. You should be elated. You should be ecstatic, like, "Oh man, this is amazing." Da, da, da. Wasn't that at all. They all acted like someone shot their dog, or you know what I mean? Like, so you could tell that Neil Armstrong is struggling, dude. And he's like, "Oh," the answer he gives about the stars clearly went against what they were instructed to say. And Michael Collins corrects him. He says, "Oh, remember there were no stars." And then you see Neil Armstrong, he kind of like nudges him with his elbow, like, shut up. You know what I mean? Like, so
Oh,
this is what I think. I think what we see in the night sky, the blackness, first, you got to remember something. No one has ever been outside of the firmament.
no,
No one's ever
100%.
been, no one's ever been to space.
No.
So here's the thing. This is what I think the Bible is possibly saying. I think what we see in the blackness, I think that is the outer darkness where there's wailing and gnashing of teeth. That's what
Hmm.
the Bible says. It says that he casts them out to the outer darkness where there's wailing and gnashing of teeth, which would also mean that that would also be, I guess, the bottomless pit.
Hmm.
How that works, I don't know. I can't explain it, but I do know that no one's ever been to space, which means because you got to figure the stars are inside that fluid, and
Yeah,
like
yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah.
so that's why they make that when you zoom in on them, it literally looks like a light is shimmering through water. So I
Exactly.
I think the stars are however they're formed, I don't know, but they're in that fluid. So, and that's exactly why when you reach a certain altitude, all the stars disappear.
Huh.
You won't hear people talk about this. Once you get close enough to the firmament, all those stars disappear. And that's why
Because
those
you're too
guys,
close.
right? And those guys, the Neil Armstrong, those guys, all the videos you see when they're actually filming, it's just black.
Huh.
There is no stars. There's nothing outside of the firmament. It's
And
just heaven. And it's, you see what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
I can't
It-
explain it because I have never been there. I don't know exactly what it looks like, but I'm just going off what the Bible says, and I'm going off of the video footage that they've shown us when they're that high up and they're filming
mhm.
quote unquote outer space. There's no stars, there's nothing out there because it's just outer darkness.
And it's really
So
fascinating that when you have some layers and the stars are aligned on that layer, when you shine a light on that, sometimes you see like the moon and like Venus, I think it's Venus, the morning star.
yeah,
You see it when the sun rises, right? But when the sun is going too high, well, too much light, too much lumen, then eventually you don't see. You see the moon, but it's more transparent and stuff like that. But you don't see the stars. But
right.
as soon as you will have a small experiment with like what's it called, like some diamonds and stuff like that. They shine when you put light on it, but what if it's otherwise round? That it only shines when you take the darkness. So it makes sense that on when it's midday, when the sun is
Mhm.
shining, you don't see anything, but the stars are there. I mean,
Right.
it's not like, oh, we got to roll this tape right now before they go to sleep. So they are there, but when it's going to be darker, you're going to see them. And what really bothers me is that I hear it all around the world. I experienced it myself. Nature is doing its thing like it always did. But these chemtrails and people would say, oh, that's not, oh, whatever. Why do they spray the sky? What can we see if these things are not happening? What happens to this world if they're not spraying like they did with the pandemic when it was a beautiful blue sky, right?
Exactly.
And now you got these 3 weeks of intense rain. Sometimes I have the feeling when I walk outside and when I look up, because I always look up, I love that there are less stars. And last I had this real vivid, crazy dream that the stars where I looked at were just like wandering through each other, and there's no star that ever crossed, right? That it's not possible. But I
Yeah.
saw that happening, and when you pointed out like CERN about what they're trying to do and what they could do, I think in China they want to make like a 50-kilometer collidron and stuff like that.
Sorry, I'm gonna plug in my computer.
Yeah, no props.
Yeah, that's
Look, Daddy.
pretty fascinating. You got my table covered in slime.
Yeah, you agree with it, right?
Yeah, no, you're right. You're absolutely correct. Yeah, yeah, it's the whole thing about stars, and this is something I think it was David Weiss or one of those guys. It mentioned something about I think it was David Weiss saying that he believes that the the sun and the moon could possibly be like like diodes, like
Mhm.
and I think he might be onto something there. uh it's like I said earlier, the earth being a toroidal electromagnetic field and all that.
Mhm.
It's very possible because it says that when the sky rolls up like a scroll, the firmament rolls up like a scroll, it says that the sun is darkened and doesn't give its light.
Huh.
So um, it's very possible that the way the earth is set up, it's basically like the sun, the moon, the stars, the firmament. It's all dependent on the electromagnetic field of the earth. And so once that field is interrupted, and it says in the Bible that it says all, not some, all of the stars fall to the earth like figs in a tree. So you got to figure, once you pull the plug, so to speak,
Yeah.
now the sky rolls up, the stars fall, the sun shorts out like a light, because it says that the sun and the moon are both stars. The sun's lights. The sun is a greater light. The moon's a lesser light. So, and it says that the moon turns a blood red, I believe is what it said.
Wow.
So,
and of course, the Nazis were very occult with the black moon, right? Or the black sun.
Black sun, yeah.
And
I think David Weiss might be right about that. He's saying that he thinks the sun, what we see as the sun, is basically like a projection of the real sun.
Exactly.
So it's very, he might be onto that. He might have nailed that. And I had a crazy idea when I told Raul. I said, what if like the eclipse, what if what we see as the eclipse is actually the sun lining up perfectly and reflecting on itself? And you see what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the sun lines up on itself and it reflects back and cancels itself out.
Ha.
I don't know. Maybe, and like, I think it would actually give credence to what David Weiss is saying. Because if it was projecting through a medium, I guess is what he's saying, then I guess that would happen. Because when there's an eclipse, you still see that corona around it.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's almost like, I don't know, man.
It's really fascinating, and
Just
sometimes you have to,
spitballing.
just like say, you have to grab a beer and just say, okay, beautiful world, cheers to you, and do the stuff that you like to do. Because if you, and even George Hobbes says that when you're too much into that kind of stuff, and when I see all the videos and the stuff that I read about stuff that interested me, sometimes you're just like, oh, just like learning on school, you're just like, okay, now done, now it's happy time. Now it's going to be, because especially because they don't give any answers to the questions, or not satisfying answers to the question. And when you do the stuff yourself, like the people in the community that do lots of tests to prove what they think that's plausible, more plausible than what they tell us. And the only thing is, what they do is they put some actor a lab coat on and say, okay, Bill Nye, the science guy, tell them that they're wrong. What? Come with some proof. That's something that I would really like. And it's not like calling each other names. Oh, you're stupid. No, please tell me why you think I'm stupid, and come with exactly these things that could prove me wrong. I would happy to say, oh, I was totally wrong. But when you see how this community grows, and with all the stuff, especially like Dave does, with all the experiments that he does at home on his kitchen table, but that make totally sense.
Yeah, he's a smart dude.
He's really smart dude. But there are a lot of, I think that the people that use their mind in this creative, constructive way to point out things that aren't real for the science. These are people that are just like I said, they have PhD, but they don't have it on paper, but they think more about the stuff that they do. And I think someone pointed out in the interview that but my grandfather, my uncle was working at NASA, so he's an idiot. No, but there were like 200,000 people working on one project, and nobody knew what they did. I'm making bolts for NASA. So
exactly,
going to Mars. Oh, Wow. But and I think it's 7 clubs on Instagram. I'm gonna have a podcast on Tuesday with him. He's um, pointing out a lot of stuff that really makes sense, just like Tyler does with the dogs and stuff like that. I mean,
Yeah,
first of all, I thought, oh man, that you know, called a mental health institution, but then he shows it and it makes so much sense. And
pretty
just
trippy,
like
huh?
copy paste, just like what? And this 7 Club, he pointed out that there's a very big facility in NASA, and I think it's called Big Easy Studios.
Hmm.
Yeah, exactly. That was that was my reaction to. And he points it out and he shows that, and I think there's now something going on with them too. So with NASA and with Big Easy Studios, that NASA doesn't want to come, that they want to come out that they are a studio, stuff like that. There's some things going on, you know. Um, but what you see the last couple of years, it's it, if you have a jacket and you want to loosen one thread, you have to do a little bit first to get it going, but then all of a
Hmm.
sudden it unravels itself somehow, the
Yeah,
fabric. I think we're on that moment that they
I
can
think
hold
you're
it
right.
back.
I think you're right. Um, yeah, I just realized. I hate to say this, but my laptop's about to die. I could talk to you for hours, bro, but it's literally at 3%.
Okay, then I
I've got.
go right away because we already have like 2 hours, a very interesting conversation, Colin. I really love it. Another spiritual warrior on that we need with the perspective of what he experienced and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Please send me. Well, I have the. Where can people find the Through a Glass Unveiled book? Is it on Amazon or?
Oh, yeah. Thank you, Rob. So actually, I got it right here. This is my book, Through a Glass Unveiled. This is my daughter. Say hi, Violet.
Hi.
Hi.
Show him the slime.
Oh,
All right,
cool.
all right, go sit down. All right. So yeah, you can find it on Amazon. Um, it's Amazon. I had to charge. They wouldn't let me put the price any lower than it is.
Hmm.
That's because it has colored pictures, drawings, basically illustrations. So it costs the publisher or whatever, the person that's actually printing the book, they have to cover their costs.
Yeah.
So the paperback is like, I think it's just under $21. It's like 20.99 or something like that. The hardback is I think $32.05 or something, and then the ebook is $4.99.
Wow.
Yeah, just on Amazon. Go on Amazon and look up Through a Glass Unveiled. Um,
I'll post a link. I'll post a link in the
yeah,
show notes.
yeah, and
Okay.
I've been, yeah, that, and let's see what else I was gonna say. So apparently, in order to get it through Kindle, I think you have to buy it first, and then you
Yeah.
can see it in Kindle, which I didn't even know that, and I was kind of frustrated. I was like, why can't I see it on Kindle? So I guess you have to purchase it, and then Kindle allows you to see it, which,
Yeah, I think it's like a subscription from Kindle that you have some software on your telephone that could read that book and stuff like that. So
well, I
yeah.
bought the paperback and the hardcover, and then it allowed me to view the book in Kindle, even though I didn't buy the ebook. I was like, well, that's weird. So,
Hmm.
anyways, yeah.
Uh, Colin, I have normally 10 questions for my guest, but I made 12.
Okay.
So my first 2 questions are very interesting, I think. What's your perception of God?
My perception of God is um, he's all encompassing. Everything comes from him. He's so powerful that he's able to create, he's able to make a creation that can then uh, choose to do evil. And what I mean by that is uh, he's so powerful that he created us with the ability of free will. And I believe that's where evil comes from. I think evil has always existed because basically evil means that you're choosing not to do good.
Exactly. It's in
So,
yourself. You choose.
right.
Right.
So what I should say is the potential of evil has always existed.
Hmm.
So once a creature with free will chose to do evil, then evil stepped onto the scene, if that
Hmm.
makes sense. So that's how powerful God is. God, everything comes from God. And I was an argument I had with my buddy, and he disagreed with me, but fine, whatever. But
Yeah, exactly.
that's what I think of God. God is he's just he's everything, and at the
Yeah.
same time, he can't sin. He can't. And this is a topic in my book that I cover. God, the Father, I don't think has the ability to have faith,
Hmm.
but I think yeah, if you get my book, I touch on it in the prologue, and it goes over some controversial or some pretty interesting topics.
I will, as said, I will post the link in the show description, and I'm really looking forward to purchase. Not now, but when the time comes, I will have to take a look at it. And it's the same with some books that I have with other podcast guests. Just like, wow, man, that's so interesting. To, it's like, oh, this is a good path. No, wait a minute. This path gives, like, there's a little path, there's a little path, and all of a sudden you come to this road, right? Because you heading forward, but the more knowledge you have and the more you know about the doors, that what's behind them, that makes the journey so interesting. And looking really forward to purchase your book, just to be honest. Oh, you still there, Joseph Collin? Hey, buddy, your laptop died.
Yeah, I died.
Oh, good to see you back then, right? Okay, we're gonna make this one fast. What's your perception of the devil? But you already explained that, right?
Well, the devil is basically, yeah, the devil would be um he is the one who spawned evil onto the scene. He is the devil is really people get the misconception of, oh, it's God versus the devil. No, that's not true at all. You have God, and then you have everything that's not God.
Hmm.
So the devil represents everything that's not God. It's not a versus. There is no versus. God doesn't have an adversary, so to speak. I mean, I guess the closest you could say as an adversary to God would be the devil, but put it this way, anything that the devil does, he has to first get permission from God.
Hmm.
So, like when you look at the story of Job, God tells him very specifically, you can do this, you can't do that. Do not kill him. You can touch his body, but don't kill him. And the devil's like, okay, you got it. And he went off and he did it. Um, so yeah, that's how I look at the devil. The devil is basically a necessary evil, I guess you would say, in a
Mm-hmm.
way.
Mm-hmm. Hmm.
Yeah, if that makes sense.
Yes, absolutely. And then great stuff to think about also. Okay, these are, I think, a little bit other questions. Like, what's your favorite color?
Hands down, green.
What's your favorite music?
And let me correct that. Emerald green.
Emerald green. All right.
My favorite music would have to probably be classic rock.
So the,
It's
the
just
good old 70s.
yeah, it's I think Alex and Raul, yeah, I think they touched on it. It's kind of back then is when you had original sound, right? Because now
Absolutely.
basically all we have now is just a bunch of Pete and repeat, like a bunch of people that are just kind of repackaging what had already happened,
Yeah.
you know.
Copy
And
paste the
so,
formula to make money.
right,
Yeah, put another puppet, and you got all the stuff. But in the 70s, definitely like Deep Purple and Led Zeppelin, Stones, Black Sabbath, Iron Maiden. In the end, they made real sound with real people with no techniques, and what the amplifier did, and the sound was there. That was it,
Right.
and it was no like, oh, we put it in a digital blah blah, and it all sounds good.
Yeah, that's the difference. That back then they actually sang. They wrote their own. Well, not all of them, but a lot of them wrote their own songs. They were actually musicians. So, like Credence, when Credence, dude,
Oh yeah.
there's a timeless sound. Like you can listen to it now and it still sounds amazing because they actually made their own sound. Like you said, now a bunch of people in studios, they're famous for 15 minutes and then everybody forgets about them.
Yeah,
And it's
exactly.
like it's not a coincidence.
And you don't have to do something with an instrument, because when you have I got something like here, like a mini lab, and I can play piano and say, okay, put out the sound of a trumpet, and a trumpet comes out. I mean,
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah, it gives a lot of funny stuff, because I also like DJ, like a little bit trance and stuff like that. So it's not like rocket science, with a little copy paste and looping and stuff, and then nice beat under it. But I
Yeah.
really love to get up and grab my guitar, and then you feel the music, right? And that makes sense. Um, Colin, what's your favorite film or series?
Favorite film or series? Ooh, that's a tough question. Oof. For a long time, my favorite film was the movie Heat with
Mhm.
Robert De Niro and Al Pacino and Val Kilmer. That movie is just oh, dude, I love that movie. It's a tough one. It's either Heat or Passion of the Christ, which is
With Mel Gibson.
just floored me, bro. It floored me.
I never saw that
Um,
one, to be honest with you.
oh, it's exceptional.
Oh,
But what's interesting is that Mel Gibson, I think he was wise for doing this, and he did the whole movie in Aramaic, so you have to read subtitles. But um, so honestly, like if English is not your first, well, you could probably get the movie with subtitles in Dutch,
mhm.
because I'm not gonna lie, like there was times in the movie where I'm having to read fast, because it's just the way the movie plays.
Yeah, yeah.
So you see what I'm saying? Like you would probably want to get it in Dutch, that way you could keep up with what they're doing.
Uh-huh.
Um, so it's an amazing film. It really is. I think he did an exceptional job.
Hmm.
As far as a series, my favorite series I would probably have to say is Breaking Bad.
Oh, good one.
Breaking Bad, dude, was like, dude, it. So usually what happens in shows, they'll do really good, and then it'll taper out, and it'll suck.
Mhm.
Like it's one of the few shows that I've ever seen that just like a roller coaster, it just kept going, kept going, kept going, kept climbing, 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 and right at the very end, like it kept you intrigued and fascinated all the way to the very end of the show,
Hmm.
and that's extremely difficult to do. So probably
Yeah.
Breaking Bad. It's my favorite series.
And you mentioned Heat. I think that was the first movie where De Niro and Pacino were in the same movie, right?
I think
Because they
you're right. Yeah,
never did something corporate together.
I think you're correct on that, actually.
Hmm. What's your favorite book?
My favorite book. Well, that's easy. It's got to be the Bible, bro. it
All right.
it's a book. It's a book made up of 66 books, and it's you know supposedly, I think George Hobbs said it. There's actually originally, I think there was 80 books. Um, so those 14 other books, who knows? Who knows what we're missing? Like
Oh yeah.
that, I want to
Oh
get my hands on those, and I'm pretty sure you can't. Like some of them, you can't even find them on eBay or nothing.
no, no. I
Um,
think with every war there's book burning, and
oh
especially
yeah,
when it goes about religions and stuff like that, about what's it called, dogma, about indoctrination and stuff like that. They want you to do something different, right? And it depends on what you do. If you see like the Second World War, where every intellect had the same problem as people that were Jewish, that they were followed and killed because they had a other way of thinking, and free thinkers, and that's one of the things that they don't want. Like we post, like we, Oh, so
Guaranteed. Yeah, guaranteed. The Vatican has all 80 books.
Probably they have, yeah.
I guarantee it, bro.
But it's a quite a big mob to go through.
Yeah, they're not going to let people see what's down there.
No, and they got the Swiss Army, the young males that protects them, and they look funny, but they're completely armed under that suit. Yeah. It's oh man.
Yeah.
What's your favorite drink or booze, Colin?
Favorite alcoholic drink?
Yeah, whatever you like.
Well, I usually drink Arnold Palmer, which is I do unsweetened iced tea mixed with lemonade. If I do happen to have an alcoholic beverage, I actually, funny enough, I really enjoy. They're called Negro Modelos.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess you would call it like a lager, like a dark amber or something like that.
Okay.
I don't drink that often. I have go to weddings and celebrations just like everyone else. So I do drink, but just not that often.
Good. What's your favorite food?
Favorite food would have to be probably. That's a good one, man. Probably either Italian or probably Italian.
Okay. What kind of clothing you wear is your favorite to wear?
Favorite clothes to wear?
Mm-hmm.
Just jeans and a t-shirt.
Yeah.
Or a sweater, whatever.
What's your favorite holiday destination?
Favorite holiday destination? Ooh, that's got to be holiday destination. You mean like for like Christmas? Where would I go?
Yeah, when you have a holiday and you can everywhere where you want to go to. What would be your favorite? It could be a destination that you've never been to, but what you want to go to, of course.
I got you. Holiday destination, probably back home. If I'm doing Christmas, I would go back to Missouri. If I'm doing like, some other holiday, probably Belize. I've been to Belize.
Oh, that should be beautiful.
Oh, bro. Belize it's amazing. And the food is amazing. Back then, years ago, the currency was 2 to 1. So you could do quite a bit with the dollar.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of stuff to see. It's a very cool place.
Wow. Yeah, I heard about that too. Yeah. Last two questions, Colin. What's your favorite quote?
My favorite quote is probably a tie between Mark Twain saying it's easier to fool a man than it is to convince that same man he was fooled, or a quote from Solomon when he said, if you judge a matter before you first fully understand it, then you're a fool. And like you get a lot of that nowadays. People, it's like, oh, they'll just spout off what they think about this, that, and the other. It's like, well, have you actually investigated what you're talking about? Well, no, because they're stupid. It's like, okay, you just proven that you're an idiot because you don't know,
exactly.
You don't know what you're talking about. So it's the same thing. Like a lot of people say, oh, the Bible's so dumb. Have you read the Bible? Well, no. Well, then how do you know it's stupid?
Exactly. It's not something like I believe in God, not in a religious way, not in a biblical way, but I like the Bible because there are some things in it that that are so on this time level
Mhm.
that could give you some insights. And it's very fascinating that a lot of people that messed up in life, when they go to prison, the first book they
Yeah.
purchase is like the Bible, because that there's something with it, with the text and how it's been written, that you have to think about your true self. And I think it's a very, very fascinating book, and it's based on religion, and it's also based a little bit of science, because these two go hand in hand. But I'm very careful about how I interpret interpret it in my way. But I love the book. I love the book, and no doubt about it, God exists 100%. I believe in that one.
Yeah, and it's the only book um, that actually perfectly explains everything that's happened to me. So
Hmm.
everything in my book that I wrote, all that stuff, it in the Bible, it talks about these things,
Wow.
and there is no other book that's going to fully explain in detail
Hmm.
what it is that you're messing with. These unseen forces that clearly exist, and they have made it their sole purpose to, steal, kill, and destroy us. So the Bible talks about all of it, and there is no other book that does that I'm aware of. I could be dead wrong.
Hmm.
There could be some other book out there that I don't know about, but yeah,
I think it's some kind of guideline through life,
yeah, basically, yeah,
right?
yeah,
And of course, every time you read something, don't judge a book by its cover, and don't read between the lines. And sometimes when you read something, and it doesn't matter what kind of book, you can read it for 10 times, and 10 times you have another perspective about it, because the evolvement of yourself and the things that you've been through, and the packs that you with that you take with you, and the experiences that you've been through, right? Yeah.
yeah.
Mm. Colin, what's your favorite? What's your life motto?
My life motto.
Yeah.
Wow, and I don't think anyone's ever asked me that question before. I guess now, like if you had asked me that question 20 years ago, I'm sure it'd be different. But now, being 42 and going through everything I've gone through, I would have to say my life motto would be to reach people, um, and help them however I can. Um, because I actually had this conversation with my father-in-law last night, and we were talking about how human beings, how we are intended to be interrelational.
Hmm.
So, in other words, if you were to take, Rob Nolkin, and let's say you just lived by yourself throughout all your existence, and there was never any other human, you never met any other human being, you would be a completely different person in every way. And that's why it's like, what is it, quote or the saying from from Shakespeare, like it's better to love and be, heart ripped out than to never love at all, or whatever it goes. I'm
Oh,
butchering it.
yeah, 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 yeah.
You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? Like, we're meant to have these experiences with other human beings. And so really, uh my motto would be um to help other humans however I can, and to try to lead them to Christ, because once you're dead, you're dead. There is no coming back. I don't care
Mm.
what anybody.
This is a very nice. What's it called? When the show is over, when Elvis is gonna leave the building.
Yeah, sorry about the laptop dying, bro.
No,
That
no, no
was
problem. Hey, man, you came back. I mean, that is just one of the things that's great with the techniques nowadays, that you just can click, and you're on the phone. That's talking to someone in bloody Europe, in the Netherlands. That's so fascinating. And if you look at it like 10, 15 years ago, when we were only like having a telephone call, it's gonna cost you like big
yeah,
bucks.
that's true.
And I talked to Raul and to Claude, to Snake, of course, Alex by WhatsApp, and it's like only data. It's also, oh
Yeah.
man, we could talk hours, and it's
Yeah.
it's very nice to meet you, Colin, because I think
Likewise,
you're on the right mission, and you have great value for the people that digging into that stuff, and even if they don't buy the book, come on, just buy the book, right? This
Yeah.
Disorganized Production, we help each other out. Just buy the book.
I
So,
appreciate it.
but yeah, I think from my side, thank you very much for hopping in and for your time and your energy that you put it in. We're going to definitely talk to each other or see each other or text each other soon.
Yeah.
Stumble about my words. After 2 podcasts of 4.5 hours, I'm going to stumble over my words, but that's okay.
You're doing great, bro. You're doing a great job.
Thanks. And just like you, I just want to help people and share some insights, motivate them, and inspire them to look a little bit longer than your nose is. And there's so much happening nowadays that
Yeah.
you just can't say that there's nothing. That's impossible.
I agree.
Yeah. Have a nice morning, a good day, or a beautiful evening wherever you are on this beautiful planet.
Much love and respect, Rob. As thanks again for bringing me on your show.
Thank you, man. Let's rock this. Let's rock this beautiful earth and wake people up and share love to each other. Support
Agreed.
each other and love. That's the key for everything, man.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rob.
Running for all my life with the devil on my heels. He wasn't always kind, and he couldn't fulfill my dreams. I've been running for all my life with the devil on my heels. He wasn't always kind, and he couldn't fulfill my dreams. He's a pain in the ass, black as a night. God, show me the light. He's a pain in the ass, black as a night. God, show me the light and hold me tight. I've been running for all my life with the devil on my heels. He wasn't always kind, and he couldn't fulfill my dreams. He's a pain in the ass, black as a night. God, show me the light and hold me tight.